about a little bit in the past with Rogan. So Joey Diaz was on, and I maybe I notice it more than other people, but I've heard like Podcast Cringe and other places reference it as well. So maybe it's a common theme among Rogan fans. But I notice it specifically doing Why Are You Laughing? Where like there are certain guys, like for modern comedians, I'll always go to see if they've been on Rogan and Marin because I think Marin's a great interviewer as far as getting into your career. Marin essentially his formula is basically going chronologically through your career. So for Why You Laughing, it's very beneficial to get a lot of those stories out of people. And Rogan used to do a little bit of that. But now Rogan interviews his guests about his own interests. And there was always a little bit of that. Like I remember even real early on in Rogan, if there was a guest I liked, I knew like, okay, I'm probably gonna have to skip through the MMA stuff. But now, no matter the guest, no matter their interests, no matter what they've done in their career, they just end up talking about the same. And people say like the same three things that Rogan gets into. No, it's a bit of a variety, but it's like 10 or 15 subjects that Rogan constantly brings up. And no matter the person's guest, like I've heard a lot of comedians talk about how they have to just sit there and pretend they know something about space or that they give a fuck about the Epstein list or whatever. It was a couple of years ago now, but we broke down Matt Rife's interview with Rogan, where you could see Matt pulling for where he's like, "I'm really into ghosts. You want to talk about that?" Like you see people come in with Rogan-y subjects to be like, "Does this get you?" And the frustrating thing there too is like when people do that, they're like, "Hey, Joe, I've got a lot of thoughts about what AI is doing to society." Then he'll go the other direction and not care about it and be like, "Today I want to talk about elk meat with you." And it's like, damn it, Joe. So Joey Diaz a little bit calls him out for that and gives him sort of a reality check about the direction the show has gone the last handful of years.
Like the number of people that will have a grandchild right now is significantly lower than it ever has been before.
Can I ask you a question?
Yeah.
What the fuck's it got to do with me? I don't give a fuck about the Japs.
Joey Diaz is great at putting things very bluntly. And Joey Diaz is a guy. I don't follow a ton of Joey Diaz stuff, but like he is a guy who I've listened to, and even like at a dark place in my life. I remember I had a clip on my phone forever, and I don't have it anymore. I was actually looking for it, but there was a motivational quote that Joey Diaz said that I would actually. It sounds very gay. You people will call me gay for this, but it means something to me. It was a quote that like I had in my phone for a while that I would listen to the clip sometimes on my glum days when I was feeling blue. So I like listening to Joey Diaz, and he has a way of putting things very bluntly. Let me hear that again.
I was going to say, this might be outro worthy. If you really think about it, applies to everything on the internet.
Let me hear it again with that in mind.
Yeah.
Can I ask you a question?
Yeah.
What the fuck's it got to do with me? I don't give a fuck about the Japs.
That might be more very good show outro worthy.
Yeah, I didn't hear that last part.
Oopsie.
That's fucking hilarious.
What the fuck is wrong with you, Joe?
Well, I think about it with us. Because I think about it with like civilizations collapsing. I think about it what we've been talking about the whole day.
Can I tell you? You know what? Maybe today, the theme of today's show between Bert Kreischer and Rogan, maybe the theme is you people have finally sucked me in. and I'm criticizing all these guys. Maybe you've finally gotten to me, and I'm seeing what you've opened my eyes. I'm seeing what you people are seeing.
Liberalism does that, Mike. Welcome to you've come to the liberal side. Now you're looking at these comedians all differently.
That's right. Excuse me. But like with Rogan, my thought has kind of always been like, it's his show. He can talk about whatever the fuck he wants. But like when you hear Joey Diaz, who's been a friend of Rogan and such a staple on that show for so long, go, why do I give a fuck about this, Joe? And you hear Joe there How does that not get a laugh? You heard how hard we laughed at it.
Yes.
Why do I give a fuck? Like, how does that? Joe doesn't break when he hears that. He always talks about how funny Joey Diaz is. Joe's like, well, no, it is important. Oh, all right, Joe. Are you a comedian at all? Is there a comedian in there somewhere?
Yeah, he was like on a balance beam. He got knocked a little bit, and then he caught his balance and right back to the bullshit.
Yeah.
To worry about
I
that.
know. We don't have to worry
This
about
is fucking
it.
too
You're
much.
right. You're
This
right.
is the first podcast I'm done that I'm scared. You know what I'm saying? What the fuck is wrong with you?
You're right.
Enough with this shit.
You're right.
And politics, enough.
I know.
COVID is over.
Like,
There he goes.
there is and to be clear, I like that Joe talks about a lot of that stuff because there's part of me that says like Jeffrey Epstein clearly didn't kill himself, right? Like, is there anyone that believes that?
I did not. You're going there. No one believes that, Mike.
So if that's true, if Jeffrey Epstein did not kill himself, we probably should talk about it a lot. It actually is crazy that story just evaporated. So, like, if Rogan wants to get into that, I don't really mind it. But I think there's something to be said for Joey Diaz kind of pointing out, like, you've done it, you've talked about it, and it has changed fucking nothing.
Mhm.
So sometimes when you have Woody Harrelson or Bill Murray on, talk about their career. Talk about fucking Zombieland, you know? Talk about something silly. It's not the end of the world if you get into some fun subject. Like the idea that he talked to Bill Murray and didn't get into... And they talked about Belushi a little bit, but really he didn't get into like SNL, any like Bill's movies. Like there was no Bill Murray talk on the Bill Murray podcast, which I think is weird.
This next one's called "What's the Difference?"
Yeah, so Joey keeps keeps hammering this in because Rogan's kind of trying to convince him and be like, I know, but there's reasons we talk about it, and Joey's not buying it.
Comes out. Well, how is it going to make a difference in your world? It's like these idiots with the Epstein list. How is it going to make a difference in your world if Tom Hanks is on that list?
I'll tell you.
Do you
what.
not have to go to work tomorrow? Do you have to do all the same shit? That shit doesn't matter to me. I don't give a fuck who's on the Epstein list. I don't give a fuck who went to Diddy's house. It's got nothing to do with me. But in today's world, because of the internet, it makes us think it's got something to do with us. It had nothing to do with me, man.
It's a show. That's what it is.
What's the fucking show? I don't want to watch that show.
Yeah, so like, I think a lot of the people that watch Rogan's show, maybe they do want to hear that, but I think that's guest based. I think if there's someone that can have some level of insight, or back to the like Dave Smith, Douglas Murray thing, I don't think you have to be an expert, but if there's a guest on, if Giannis Pappas is on and really wants to talk about the Epstein list, do it for 3 hours. Who gives a fuck? But what's frustrating is when the guest doesn't give a... Like, you hear Joey Diaz saying, I don't give a fuck about this subject. And Joe Rogan keeps going, but here's why you should. And it's like, you're not going to convince people to care. Either they do or they don't.
Yeah, and Joey Diaz is kind of doing a public service for other comedians who probably don't have the balls or chutzpah to say anything to Joe, like, oh, yeah, no, yeah, Epstein. They just go along with it.
I think about this all the time. There's comics that can't do Rogan.
Yes.
I think about this specifically with Are You Garbage? Because I've heard them referenced on Joe's podcast a few times. And I've had the thought, oh, why isn't Are You Garbage been on? And then I immediately realized, like, Joe would do nothing fun with them. Mm-hmm. There would be no, like, hey, do you keep your toothbrush in the shower kind of talk? It would be all, like, what do you think about fucking space and... alpha brain, and you're looking at H. Foley, who's 400 fucking pounds, and he doesn't have any thoughts on this. No. So yeah, like there literally are people that couldn't do Rogan when that used to be a show where you could talk about anything. That's what made it interesting. And it's interesting to hear a guy like Rogan is a guy that talked about things that weren't popular. But now it's almost like he does talk about things because there are, and maybe that's part of the thing Douglas Murray was trying to get through to Rogan is like the reason these subjects keep coming up is because they're popular. Like it's not good to talk about things just because they get more views. So maybe that, I still don't quite get Douglas Murray's argument, but maybe that was part of it where it's like, you just kind of keep refreshing these topics that have been done to death because it helps you get 3 million views on YouTube instead of 1.5 million or something.
This next one's called Do You Care?
Yeah, and it is, as Joey Diaz often is, it's harsh, but I totally get his point here.
To get capital. Are you fucking kidding me? And people are worried about the fucking Epstein list. Like, how is it going to change your life who fucking Tom Hanks was fucking in the ass? Who doesn't matter? And do you really care? At the end of the day, do you really care about that 16-year-old girl? No, you don't. So shut the fuck up. Nobody cares. It's just a fucking show.
It's a show.
It's a show. It's like I told you about L.A.
Yeah.
You know, I was
But
watching
it's a compelling show.
What's
though.
that?
But there's something to be said for what Joey's saying. Like, it sounds harsh to be like, do you care about that 16-year-old girl? But I think what he's saying is none of us actually care. We're not like, oh my God, the victims. We just think it's a sexy story to talk about. It's fun. Which is, there's a grossness to that when people forget what the actual story is. Like with the Karen Reed trial you see now. I don't think anyone gives a fuck about the dead guy. We're just like, ooh, is she guilty? Is she gonna go to jail?
Do people even know his name? They know Karen's name, but do they know John O'Keefe's name?
Right. There are a lot of...
Go to blindmike.net for everything Blind Mike. Look at me. I did it. Kragers did it.